9 climbers fell into a crevasse about 9 a.m. this morning. 3 of those climbers were dead when they were reached by rescue workers. You're looking now at live pictures there from the south side of Mount Hood. 3 of the climbers were said to have critical injuries. 1 has been taken off the mountain. As we know, 2 are said to not have life-threatening injuries. This is the horrific video that came in just about 20 minutes to a half an hour ago of an Army Black Hawk helicopter going down as it was attempting to be involved in this rescue effort on Mount Hood. We are still waiting word to find out just how many people may have been aboard this chopper. It appears to be in such ruins there. The rotor you saw come off as it slammed into the face of the mountain. This all happening in an area called Hogsback, just above Timberline. And just a day of startling developments there as it all started with that climbing accident on what appears to be a nice day on the mountain. But it has turned terribly tragic. We are waiting to find out from the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue Department if any of their members were involved in this climbing team of 9 who set out early this morning. Anna Song now joining us from the newsroom with more information. Anna, have we learned any more about the accident on Mount Rainier?
Not on Mount Rainier, Kathy, but we do know that officials had said earlier today that this operation on Mount Hood was extremely risky because of the high altitude. Despite the good weather and the calm winds, they said that having a helicopter up there to rescue these climbers at that altitude was certainly a high-risk operation. The worst climbing disaster on Mount Hood was back in 1986 when 11 people died. That's when 9 teenagers and 2 teachers from the Oregon Episcopal School in Portland, they froze to death while retreating from a storm during an annual climb by the students and the staff. Certainly this is a tragedy up on Mount Hood, and we would like to get some more information. We're scrambling now to find out the status of the people who were involved in that crash to learn the extent of their injuries and how quickly help can be provided to them. Kathy?
Anna, we do know at this point that some of the victims taken from Mount Hood have been brought to Emmanuel Hospital for treatment. We assume at this point we have a helicopter arriving there with one of the victims on board. We don't know at this point any identities, as we have been saying. We do know that some members of the Tualatin Valley Fire Department were scheduled for a recreational climb in this area today, and that the phone call for help originally came from a paramedic with TVF. But again, we are awaiting identities on the victims, any of the injured involved, the climbing team of 9 people. Amy Clark continues to watch the rescue effort there on Mount Hood. Any developments so far, Amy?
Kathy, right now they're in the process of preparing to give a press conference. That's when they'll probably tell us a little bit more about this helicopter that has crashed. We do know, earlier I said that I was told that it was Air Force 939. We have been now told that it was Black Hawk Army, that is indeed the copter that went down. At this point, they're not releasing any other information, and they are still saying that they're trying to rescue some of the climbers, or the climbers that are up there. Now, as you know, this crash has affected the rescue effort. It's now going to delay everything as they try to figure out how many people were in that helicopter, if there are people alive, if there are people dead, and exactly what caused that crash. Like I said, we're waiting. You know, there are probably about 10 cameras out here. We're all waiting to hear from Angie Blanchard, who's with Clackamas County, just what that latest information is at this point.
Amy, I'll ask you to stay with me here. So I do have a question for you, but I want to mention there is speculation, and again, only speculation at this point. We cannot confirm it, that possibly the helicopter may have been caught in a downdraft on the mountain. But again, that is speculation at this point.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, Kathy. May have been what?
May have been caught in a downdraft on the mountain. What are conditions like up there today?
That's actually a very good point. You know, when rescue crews were heading up the mountain, the first question that was asked was, hey, you must be happy that the weather's good. It probably will make the rescue effort that much easier. And in fact, that's not the case. When you have the weather conditions as they are today, where it's sunny and warm and the snow is melting, it makes it very difficult, not only for people, rescue crews on the ground, but for the copter or these helicopters that are hovering above and then trying to they're trying to bring the climbers and transport them into the helicopter to then take them to the hospital. So, you know, it looks nice out here, but in fact, these weather conditions, I think, have proved to be very difficult for the rescuers. And as we have seen, there has now been one helicopter that has crashed. And again, they have not said exactly what the cause is, but that could have been a contributing factor.
From the video we see here, Amy, we can actually see the struggle, the helicopter trying to get air,
yes.
and it does appear, again, to be fighting some sort of draft. Let me ask you, Amy, if you could run down for us what we know in terms of numbers of climbers still on the mountain as opposed to those taken to the hospital.
At this point, we know that 2 of the 4 critically injured have been taken to Legacy Emmanuel Hospital. We do know that 2 remain on the mountain. 3 have been killed. That has been confirmed in this hiking accident. And we have about 2 others that face non-life-threatening injuries. Now, they had apparently were about 800 feet below the summit. That's about just over 10,000 foot elevation. It is not known whether they fell 800 feet. I've heard conflicting reports, but that they at least fell several feet into this deep crevasse. And at that point, obviously, they faced a lot of the trouble in getting out, and then some were killed. There also was a paramedic with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue that made the call to 911 to then get authorities involved in this rescue effort. And at this point, it's believed that 6 of the climbers that were up there were also from Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. Still no word on whether any of those 6 were killed. As I said earlier, there were several groups that had registered here. I've heard 10 climbing groups. And so, you know, at this point, a lot is unknown. We've just found out that Angie Blanchard with Clackamas County is in the process of trying to gather some more information. She has delayed the press conference that was scheduled for just about 5 minutes ago. So we're waiting here. As soon as she comes out with any detailed information, we'll give that to you.
Amy, we should say the crevasse itself, it's hard to tell from the perspective that we see from Jet 2, is 25 to 30 feet deep. So quite an obstacle once the rescuers did arrive there in trying to even reach the hikers to begin with. What other kind of obstacles are they facing as they try to get these hikers off the mountain?
If you say 25 to 30, that may be the case. You know, I again have been told up to 50 feet. I think, like I mentioned earlier, some of the challenges that these rescue crews face, and let me just repeat myself or maybe reiterate that we have American Medical Rescue, which is also, they have the reach and treat teams up there, the medical crews. We also have Portland, Mountain Rescue, Pacific Northwest Search and Rescue. And we obviously had the helicopter. So we have a lot of people up there trying to make this rescue effort go as smoothly as possible. But like I said, the weather, I mean, it looks like it's nice out here, but that can be very troublesome for those on the ground, and then those as we have seen, also in the air. And right now we're seeing clouds kind of move in. It's been fairly clear out here for most of the day. Now the clouds are starting to move in, and that could really affect the rescue effort even further. And I tell you, they have had one problem after another out here. And as you can see, let me just show you here the clouds moving in, and boy, are they moving in quickly. And we've got rescuers up there right now with a downed helicopter. Who knows how long this could last, really.
We have been told here just a minute ago that 2 of the climbers are on the way to OHSU for treatment. We had 2 headed to Legacy Emmanuel for treatment. Again, the extent of the injuries, we don't have any details as of yet. Amy, as far as helicopters involved in this operation, we know the one that went down was the Army Black Hawk helicopter. Was that the only one that the Army had involved there?
Again, because we've been getting some conflicting reports. I mean, every minute we've had information change. So, you've been hearing one thing, we've been hearing something else out here in the field. But, I've also been told that we have some helicopters that are with the Air Force and with the National Guard. And so right now we see 4 in all. And the one thing that we do know is that the one that went down was indeed Army, was indeed Black Hawk.
Amy, do you get a sense, not being a climber myself, but from being up there and hearing folks speak, would today have been considered a good day to take on the mountain?
I think the word around here and the feeling around here is that yes, this was a very good day. That weather conditions were pretty mild. As I said earlier, there were a lot of groups that had registered, and while we were here, there were a lot of groups that arrived and headed up the mountain. So I think the consensus is that yes, it was a good day, and it's amazing that, you know, one tragic event after another has happened here today, and it's just been quite chaotic at times.
I imagine so, and that chaos continues, I'm sure, to unfold. At this point, we are looking at pictures taken earlier of the crevasse where the 9 climbers fell. This all happened about 9 o'clock this morning. 3, we learned early on, had died. 3 were said to be critically injured, and then 3 with non-life-threatening injuries. And we are waiting on identities of any of the 9 involved in this accident, but have been told that members of Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue were involved in a climbing team, and that original call coming from a paramedic's cell phone, the call for help, which came in about 9 this morning. This all happened about 800 feet from the summit of Oregon's tallest mountain, that being Mount Hood, in an area called Hog's Back. The climbers were not far from reaching their goal when this tragedy occurred, and all 9 ending up, as we showed you earlier, in that crevasse, which has been described anywhere from 25 to 50 feet deep. That was the original problem unfolding there on Mount Hood, and then just about a half hour ago, conditions got so much worse when that Army Black Hawk just slammed into the side of the mountain, and we are still waiting word on just who was inside that chopper and what has happened to them. Again, that was an Army Black Hawk helicopter involved in this operation. Amy described a handful of helicopters being involved in this, the Air Force possibly. Again, this is what happened just a short time ago. Speculation at this point, and it is only speculation, that the chopper could have been caught in a downdraft there on the south side of Mount Hood. When it went down, lost its rotor, and just really broke apart there and continued to roll down the face of the mountain. We heard instantly from a Clackamas County Sheriff's Department spokesman who just said, we don't know anything at this point. We are getting there as quickly as we can, and that is the last we've heard from an authority regarding this crash. He did identify it as an Army Black Hawk, but we are waiting word to find out just who was on board. But we do know it was sent to be involved in this rescue of the climbers on Mount Hood. You're looking here still at pictures taken earlier of conditions there on the mountain, described as a fairly calm day, not particularly windy. You can see the sun is shining. These pictures taken earlier of that crevasse, which again has been described as 25, somewhere 35. Amy Clark on the mountain is saying she's heard as much as 50 feet deep. So quite an obstacle for rescuers once they arrive there in trying to remove the hikers from the mountain. Amy is standing by at Timberline where a press conference is taking place. Let's listen. Angie Blanchard.
Well, right now we're getting a media briefing from Clackamas County Sheriff's Angela Blanchard.
Right now we have airlifted 2 of the critically injured patients off the mountain. They have gone to Emmanuel Hospital. We have 2 other critically ill patients that are in the process of being transported to, or reached to be transported probably to OHSU. As you are aware, that there was a Air Force Black Hawk helicopter that went down. It went down just below the rescue site. None of the people on the ground were injured, and right now we have a Portland Mountain Rescue has a crew that has reached the helicopter. We know that there's 1 person critically injured, and they're trying to assess the rest.
Anyone injured in the helicopter itself? What can you tell us about that?
Well, I don't know that for sure. They've just reached them. We know that 1 is critically injured from the helicopter. It's a 4-man crew, and they're trying to assess the other patient.
Has anyone been killed?
I don't know that yet. It's still early.
How does this change the dynamics of the search and rescue mission going on up there now?
Well, our primary mission is to get the critically injured off the mountain. We have 2 other helicopters coming out of Salem from the 1042, and they'll be taken as soon as we can get them here to OHSU.
How did the weather? How did the weather affect what happened up there with the copter?
You know, I don't know the weather. I mean, it's fairly clear, but it is tricky up there, and these guys do a great job getting these patients off the mountain. And, you know, we're just hoping that they're okay, and we're going to try and get to them and give them some medical attention. So,
any delay in getting the critically injured off?
There is a delay. That was the helicopter meant for the third patient, but no one on the ground was hurt, fortunately, and hopefully we're going to take care of those in the helicopter.
So clarify again for us, 2 that have already been taken to Legacy Emmanuel, and then the 2 other critically injured are still on the mountain.
Right, 2 critically injured are still on the mountain. We had 3 in the beginning critically injured that developed to a 4th patient, and those 2, as soon as we can get the helicopters here, will be taken probably to OHSU.
Angie, we do not know what caused the chopper to go down at this point.
I don't know what caused the chopper to go down at this point.
What about the other 3 injured?
The other 3 injured, they are still up there, and I'm not sure if they're going to come down by helicopter or actually be brought down by the snowcat.
The 3 killed.
I'm sorry?
How about the 3 killed?
They will be the last patients down because they don't obviously need the attention right now, and we don't have names or identifications on anybody involved. We're still working on all that.
Coming down, are those other climbing groups, or are those also rescuers?
There were a lot of people up on the mountain, as you probably know. There was a lot of people climbing, so some of these people may not be part of the climbers that were involved.
What about the cause of the accident? What about the wind, any kind of tailwind that was up there? We saw some people say they saw the helicopter struggling against that wind.
I don't know what exactly caused that helicopter to crash. I don't believe we had any reports of any bad weather, so that'll have to be determined at a later date. Right now, we're just interested in getting those critically ill people off the mountain to the hospital and take care of the rest of the injured up there.
Andrew, because that Black Hawk went down, is that changing the way you're going to get the critically injured off that mountain now? You said you're bringing the snowcats in?
No, that has been the plan all along. It depends on the extent of injuries, whether or not they'll be brought down by helicopter or brought down to a snowcat. Will they be brought down here to the lodge?
What has this been like for you today, dealing with one blow after another, it seems?
Well, I think that we have a lot of people here who are helping out, and we just are hoping that these people are going to be okay, that actually came here to help rescue people who are injured. And, you know, they risk their lives every day coming out here. We've got several other helicopters out here, and we're hoping that it's going to go smoothly from here on out.
One helicopter was dumping fuel. Why was that? Do you know?
I think that's a standard practice to lighten the load of the helicopter because they're going up so high.
Did you hear anything, the last words before the helicopter went down?
I don't know that. I don't know.
This was, in fact, the Air Force helicopter, not an Army chopper?
This was the Air Force helicopter, which is, I believe, the 304th Squadron of the 939th.
Is there an Air Force representative up here who can give us status of the crash?
The Air Force is on their way, from what I understand, and we'll make sure that you guys know about that when they get up here.
It was a Black Hawk?
It was a Black Hawk helicopter, 4-man crew.
One critically injured.
And right now, as we know it, 1 is critically injured from the last information that I had.
It sounds like this day went from bad to worse.
It did go from bad to worse, and you know, we're here trying to help people, and unfortunately the rescuers become the rescuees, and you know, we're just hoping that they're going to be okay, and we have people up there that can help them, and they're working on that right now. So we'll let you know and give you an update as soon as we know any more information.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How quick were those?
So as you just heard, at this point, they still don't know what caused this crash. This crash now happened about 20 minutes ago. We do know that there were 4 men inside, or 4 people inside that helicopter. And, you know, we've been hearing conflicting reports concerning a lot of the information all day today. So we want to just reiterate the fact that that was Angie Blanchard with Clackamas County, and she did tell us that it was indeed an Air Force 939 helicopter that went down. At this point, 1 is critically injured, and they will not say whether any members rescue members that were on that helicopter were killed or not. So back to you, Kathy.
All right, Amy Clark, thank you very much. Again, recapping what has happened here. The original rescue of 9 rescue operation and recovery effort really there on the south side of Mount Hood turned terribly tragic just about 40 minutes ago when a helicopter involved in that operation crashed on the mountainside. And as Amy mentioned there, we are waiting for more information on who might have been inside. 4, we're told at this point, was the number of people on board. Ed Teachout is following the effort to get the injured to hospitals. Ed, are you at Emmanuel Hospital?
I am, Kathy. I'm at Emmanuel Legacy Hospital, where all of us are thinking here, very sad at this time, because the first helicopter to bring the first patient here may have been the one that was involved with that crash on the mountain. So far, we've had 2 patients brought here to
Can I not
Legacy
get into
Emmanuel,
this computer?
and they're both in serious condition. We've been given no other information about what their names are until relatives have been notified. We have been in contact with Oregon Health Sciences University, where they say 2 patients are en route there, but they are yet to arrive. So it looks like at this time, 4 of the climbers have 2 been brought here in serious condition, 2 more en route to Oregon Health Sciences University. That's the situation right now. Back to you, Kathy.
Ed, what sort of preparations do you see in anticipation of these helicopters arriving? I imagine quite a crew comes out from the hospital staff.
Well, it is quite a crew, but then again, remember, Kathy, this is they've got this down pat. Life flight helicopters, even in between 2 of the choppers that landed here, we had another life flight landed that was a totally unrelated accident. So pretty professional crews here. They do it every day, and unfortunately, they're just going to have quite a few more patients coming here in anticipation of what may have happened up on the mountain. Kathy, back to you.
Ed Teachout, live at Legacy Emmanuel for K2. Thank you. Eric Mason joining us now on the set so we can get some perspective on just what the climbing conditions were there on the mountain today. Eric has been checking into that for us, and as Amy Clark pointed out from the Timberline area, it appeared to be a clear day. Some talk of some slight wind, Eric, but what do you know?
This is the typical day on a springtime day that you go and climb, and that's what makes it so difficult to get a rescue going, because when you have that many people on the mountain, perhaps 200 to 300 on a spring day, you've got a number of people, they're all climbing towards the top, they're all stacked up, and when one group falls, groups fall behind them. And when a snow bridge like this collapses, I've been up there before, when it happens, whoever's on that snow bridge goes into the crevasse.
You talk about a snow bridge. You're introducing that concept to us.
Right.
Explain what you mean by that, Eric.
Well, in a crevasse, at the uppermost crevasse called the Bergschrund on the top of the mountain, what you have is snow that's covering a huge open area beneath it. And when that falls through, perhaps you have a 100-feet fall that goes down. If you take a look at the pictures inside the crevasse, you can see the bodies and the equipment of some of the climbers.
Perhaps even some rope there as well they may have been attached with?
You can go quite a ways down, and even you probably can't even see the bottom of that crevasse there because it goes even further. And when a snow bridge that's covering over the winter through all that snow falls through, climbers aren't prepared for that, and if they're not roped together the right way, a whole bunch of folks can end up inside the crevasse.
At this elevation, Eric, would thin air be a problem for those involved in trying to rescue?
At 10,000 feet, that isn't really the big problem. The big problem is when you have all of those folks that go in and you have no one to rescue them with ropes. If all the folks, perhaps 9 in this case, are down in the crevasse, getting someone outside and being able to pull those folks out is the most difficult thing to do when you have the entire rope team in there. Usually a rope team has between 3 and 4 people in it. One person falls through the crevasse, perhaps, and the other 3 people affect the rescue. When you have the whole group go in, or 2 whole groups go in, then it's a near impossibility to get all those folks out.
Amy Clark is continuing to watch the situation for us from Timberline there on the south side of Mount Hood. Amy, do you have new information for us?
We do actually, Kathy. This is the 4th helicopter that just has arrived on scene here. We're told by Angie Blanchard with Clackamas County that this is part of the 1042 National Guard out of Salem, and this helicopter will actually be taken up to rescue or bring down one of the climbers. The next climber that is in, the worst possible condition that still remains on the mountain. So this has just arrived at this point, and as we said, it's part of 1042 National Guard, and this is the 4th helicopter. It's believed that that's what we're told, but we've also had that information change. So at this point, it's the 4th helicopter brought in.
Amy Clark,
Kathy.
live there at Timberline for us. We will continue to check in with her. Dan Tilken has been watching a press conference being held by Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. Again, we have reported that some members of Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue were involved in this climbing team this morning. Dan, what did you learn?
Well, Kathy, I'm going to go straight to Karen Eubanks with Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue because she has brand new information. What can you tell us?
Well, we have some wonderful information regarding the fire district. We just received word from the mountain that we had no employees that were fatalities. We were told that we had 3 employees that actually slid into the crevasse, but those employees it's going to appear that they're okay. 1 was transported from the mountain, while 2 are up on the mountain walking and talking, appeared to be okay. So good news from the mountain for us.
Do you know if any of them were airlifted to any hospitals?
I don't have information in terms of the person that was transported and where he went. But again, we're just extremely glad that we didn't have the fatalities that we originally were thinking we might.
That is certainly good news. And just to confirm with you, you had at least 6 people from your organization involved in some manner is what your chief told us. 4 firefighters, an assistant fire marshal, and his son. And we understand that it's that unnamed assistant fire marshal who actually called 911 from inside the crevasse?
My information is that he called from just outside the rim of the crevasse, and that is who I just got off the phone with. He was the one to call down from the mountain and report that we had no fatalities, and we had 3 of our party that had actually slid into the crevasse. 1 transported, 2 still up on the mountain, and including his son that appeared to be okay.
And you're intentionally not naming them or telling which department or which firehouse they're from until you can talk to their families, obviously.
That's correct, and that information will be forthcoming shortly. So.
Okay. And we talked with the police fire chief earlier, Jeff Johnson, and this is what he had to say.
Well, we're glued to the TV set just like everybody else is, just hoping for some scrap of information that will help us figure out who's on the mountain and what their condition is. We're listening to radio traffic. We're monitoring cell phone calls to the 911 center. We're just trying to pick up anything we can off the hiking list that you have to sign before you climb the mountain. But right now, information is sketchy.
Are your rescue instincts looking at as you watch this? I mean, you guys are used to rescuing people, and now you've got people up there with the Black Hawk that just went down.
I think that's the hardest part is everybody, right now in the firehouse, they're watching this on TV. It's kind of a helpless feeling. We're used to jumping in there and going to work, and right now it's one of those times we've got to sit back and wait and let the other professionals do their job.
And just to reiterate, Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue learning that none of their members on the climb, Kathy, were fatalities.
Dan Tilken, thank you for that. We want to go back to Amy Clark at Timberline, keeping track of both the helicopter crash and the removal of climbers from Mount Hood. Amy, what can you tell us?
Well, Kathy, right here I have Angie Blanchard with Clackamas County Sheriff's Department, and she's going to let us know the latest. We've just had 2 helicopters that have come in the last 5 minutes. So tell us what's going on. What are these helicopters going to be used for? And at this point, how many people, how many climbers have been removed from the mountain and rescued?
Well, right now we have extra helicopters brought in from the 1042 National Guard unit out of Salem. We brought them in as additional support to take out the critically injured up from the climbing accident, as well as having them on standby for the helicopter that did crash.
And give us an update as far as how many people have actually been taken now to the hospital, whether those people were critically injured, and what's the situation from here on out?
Right now we have 2 patients that have gone off by helicopter to Emmanuel Hospital. We have 2 additional critical patients that are still up on the mountain, and the helicopter that crashed was en route to pick up the 3rd critically injured patient, and so there was a minimum delay in getting them out, and that's what these helicopters are here for.
Now let me clarify something with you. I have heard that 2 at Legacy Emmanuel and 2 actually are en route to OHSU. Is that accurate?
That could be accurate. I know we had our other 2 helicopters that we've had transport the other 2 patients, so they could have flown back here and picked those up during the time we had these other helicopters come in.